updated builds that I've discovered from running with different people, people from the community, some really experienced raiders. I've learned a lot from a guy named Redshirt. He showed me this build. This is a 80% protection from elites build. You can see it right here. So to get to that, you get 10% from just being a survivalist. And the rest is all mods. And you have to use improvised gear so you can get the extra mod slots. The reason this is kind of important is in the Iron Horse raid, last boss, Marzova, those green lasers, they're considered elites, the damage they do. And having this basically negates the damage. I've watched him do it, and he uses this build as like a key runner kind of thing. So like in the last phase, while the tanks got Marzova pinned up against the door, after the rockets are down and all that, the person can just run and go get the keys and not have to worry about the lasers at all. And I guess, you know, I would put just, I mean, you can mess around on these pieces, but I'm keeping the Providence with, you know, Vigilance and Unbreakable just to be able to kill stuff. And all, you know, weapon core, weapon damage, put a little bit of armor regen on it and stuff like that. You can mess around with whatever's comfortable. You know, you could even do this probably with all reds. The only thing that's important is the mods for the protection from elite. And then whatever skills you want to use, turret, decoy, you know, that's that build. This is just for Iron Horse. Now I wanted to kind of go over some other ones for Dark Hours. This build is a jammer pulse build. Use the 4-piece hardwire. And what's important is that feedback loop. You know, drop your hive, get your pulse back. This is pretty easy to make or farm. It's all yellow skill tier and skill damage. You could put skill haste or skill duration, or like I did in this, you could even put armor on kill. Because when you use the jammer and it takes out the drones, you can get armor back by doing that. The BTSU gloves, they're a must. They help in a lot of things. You know, with the inexperienced group, you know, they can help people when you blow up your hive, get their hives back, overcharge things if your rotation gets messed up for some reason. But it's all just, you know, skill damage on it. I used Wyvern chest piece with glass cannon. This is definitely meant to be jamming from a plate. Doesn't really matter what plate. Typically it's like 1 on Razorback, but it could be either 2 or 3 in the back. Just depends. And I use a test subject for in-sync. You know, just if you're shooting stuff, it's just more skill damage for jammer. And if things get too close, you know, Scorpio helps. Sidearm doesn't really matter, but you should keep a concussion grenade on just in case you have to, you know, shoot your arrow and then throw the grenade for some reason, because sometimes that happens. But for mods, I have radius and effect duration. And for the healing one, healing, health, and the repair charges. You only really need to worry about like enough haste and stuff for the refill speed to be at 1. You know, with a decent group, you don't have to do too much healing, but sometimes it doesn't hurt. And what I'm going to show you is kind of like the example of the rotation for the jammer build. It's a little messed up here in the White House. But basically, you know, you're on your plate, you know, you would have shot your crossbow, and you start immediately charging your jammer, right? Then you drop your hive, and get your pulse back. Next set of drones will come out, jam again, right? And you're watching that HW buff. Once that goes, like right there, pick your hive up, put it down, jam again. And pick your hive up, put it down, get it back. It's pretty easy. You just gotta watch that HW buff that's charging right there. Now normally on Razorback, you're gonna get at least 2 sets of drones. But sometimes you might get a third set that comes out at the very end when you do enough damage to the weak point. And that's pretty much, that's the Jam Repulse build. Let's see here. And here is, let's reiterate and go over DPS. All red build, right? I usually use 3 pieces of Providence. You got the Gift, Contractors, Fox's Prayers, and a Grupo piece. This is kind of set up for rifle. Use classic M1A with Boomerang. Scorpio is just such a good gun. I use the card for the skill tier, because when you get a hive you only get 1 charges, but when you switch to the pistol, I'll give you 2 charges, so you could pick up somebody else, grab your hive, and have it for you. I run this at like 50% crit chance, 200 damage, just because if somebody's using a Coyote's Mask, you'll make up that extra. Now there's some other things you can do with this build. You know, a lot of people like running the Gunslinger. They drop the Scorpio for whatever, maybe like an assault rifle. You know, I like the FAMAS. Some people Police M4. Both are really good guns. I really enjoy Measured. You know, you could use opportunistic. No, it's Optimist. Sorry. All right. But the reason they do that is they pair it with the Regulus, and you can change your chest piece. You know, if you're looking to do some serious damage. Intimidate is situational. You know, depending on which fight. You could run Perfect Headhunter with it, and you could stack a bunch of headshot damage on your gear. Or where are we at? Use a Sacrifice. I have a couple different ones, you know, critical hit damage, headshot. Because reading the Gunslinger, right? Whatever you hit, it says this deals damage to anywhere you hit. It's headshot damage. As long as you don't miss, kaboom. But with the Regulus, you do want to try to hit the headshot just for that extra explosion. So there's kind of like a blueprint, and you can mess around with different things, switch stuff around. Some people like to rock like a couple Walker and Harris pieces, you know, stack damage to armor. Fox's Prayers is just a really, really solid piece because that damage to targets out of cover. You know, there's a lot of ways to build this so you can do damage, but this is just some different setups. Okay. Now, here's a Future Initiative healer build. It's a pretty standard thing. You know, the main piece is the chest piece with the four piece. So you give everybody that extra bonus of 25 BTSU glows. Having opportunistic just helps your team. You know, you need a marksman rifle, shotgun to put that buff on, so this is what I use. You know, you can put either skill haste, skill repairs on any of the pieces. Definitely need enough haste though to get your refill speed to 1. And after that you can put, you know, you could even do skill duration maybe. And, you know, healing thing. Chem launcher, you got, you know, heal mod. Whatever your preference is here, you can make a bigger radius, make your clouds last longer, get more ammo. You know, just really depends. Same thing, healing, health, repair charges. I mod haste. I just like being able to get my skills back quicker. You know, if you want to go for bigger heals, you know, put repair skills on. And that buff, Reformation, just gotta hit a headshot. lasts for 15 seconds. It's not super important, make or break kind of thing. It's kind of like if you have the time, you know, sometimes when you're healing you'll have free time, sometimes you won't. Just depends. Let's see what else could I show you guys. Okay. I love this build. Very rarely get to use it though. You know, it's a chain killer, perfect headhunter build. Now there's a couple different variants. Core pieces or aces and eights. You know, it's all headshot. So weapon damage, headshot, mod headshot. This backpack is a like foundation piece, vigilance. You know, use gloves. Definitely need the chest piece. Rock the holster. Now this is where you can change things up. Like an Iron Horse, there are some spots where you could use this build. Where I think it would excel would be on the 4th boss, Marzova. A lot of open ground, a lot of places to just sit, post up. A lot of ads come from only specific spots. Really good for taking out the snipers, helping with rockets, even the chungas and stuff. You could use Nemesis. You could even rock a Mantis. I would use a tactician drone, a spotter drone, or if you're going to use the Mantis, you could throw a bunch of decoys. White Death is probably next best option for marksman rifle. Now I have it with naked, Ranger, really good option on it too. And being a sharpshooter, you get the best scope for headshot damage. Put some weapon damage, and then whatever you think. I put accuracy on it. You could do a little bit more stability, whatever. And I still keep that card just for the 2 chargers on this one if you might have to pick someone up. Now, what you could do with this instead, switch it to Fox's Prayers. A little bit more damage. And then once you build up stacks, you can always switch to your TAC 50 to hit something insanely hard. So it just depends on how you want to play with it. Now, you could even do something a lot of people don't run anymore. 4 piece of aces. I would use a chest piece on this because it's going to give you 50% amplified instead of 30. You could still run the same setup. You could keep Foxes if you wanted. You could put Sawyers if you want. Sawyers is really good. Like in Dark Hours, if you wanted to use this, I would recommend like Overwatch 4. If you sit up on that little platform, you can see clear to 3, see clear to 1. Just can't really get good line of sight on 2. You just post up. Still take damage if you get hit by the mortars, but you won't get staggered. And it's just keeping your damage increased too. Sawyers isn't really good for fights where you gotta do a lot of moving around. So if you find yourself having to move a lot, then just rock the Foxes. Then you would just still mod headshot damage. You might want to change some of your weapons. What I would recommend, Commando is not a bad gun. It's an SVD variant. You could even use any of the SVDs. Let me see if I got any here. Take a look here. Got a lot of crap in here. Another Commando. You usually want like a fast firing one. This one doesn't hit too hard, but it could work too. Compare it with like your flashbangs and stuff. Got a White Death. But yeah, if you use an SVD, it fires fast enough to keep those stacks coming. And you can still pull it off with these slower firing ones. You just might want to focus on your headshots, because when you land a headshot, it flips over extra cards. It's still a pretty good set. Used to be one of the best ones. And let's see what else we got here. Now this build. A lot of people know about this build. A lot of people run this kind of build, and this is specific to Razorback. The Ravenous has a lot of stuff going on with its buffs and stuff, and shoulders and switching and all kinds of things, right? I would run this from any plate, you know, like typically it's like 4, maybe 2 or 3. You're going to be a demolitionist, you know, whatever the grenade launcher guys are on, right? The Ravenous, that buff can be marked on Razorback even though it's immune. And you have to start out on the left side. Right, the left side, it does like, what is it, bonus armor damage, amplified damage to armor plates. This works extremely well on Razorback. So the way it works is like you're shooting 5 on the left, 1 on the right. 5 on the left, 1 on the right. If you can stack it 2, maybe 3 times, with this, you know, you switch to your pistol. D50 is one of the hardest hitting, just, you know, non-exotic pistols. I'm gonna have to try and farm for one that has Optimist on it, because if you fire all your bullets off to where it's only got 1 clip, it's just gonna make you do even more damage. And the hardest with like this kind of setup that I've ever hit Razorback for was like, I think my record right now is like 229 million. And you got a lot of things working for you. Glass Cannon's going to be one of the ways you can make it. Vigilance, Punch Drunk, at 20% headshot damage. Now you could try stacking, you know, a lot of headshot. I just like the critical hit because, you know, once you crit, it's going to see some big numbers. You could, you know, switch your foxes up to, you know, crit headshot damage too. And then your primary, or your secondary really, you could use an assault rifle if you want, because Razorback's mostly health damage. I've even tried using a rifle. And if you do the trick right, like normally you'll hit for, let's say, somewhere like 2 to 3 million on Razorback, right? You practice 2 or 3 times, you're gonna see it jump up to like, you know, 8 to 9, maybe 10. You get it, you know, if you get the 3 stacks, you'll be definitely hitting 10 million and higher each shot, if you do it right. But like this, man, it can lay down some pain on Razorback and make the faces go extremely fast. And then, you know, your skills, you definitely need a Reviver Hive. This one, assault turret's pretty good. You know, placement, and on Razorback there's a million places you can throw it. Pretty much anywhere where the ads come down. You know, and each section has 2 spots where the ads come down. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's always two spots where they come. It never changes. But this is one of my more fun builds to run. It's really enjoyable when you figure out exactly how to work the Ravenous. And I could kind of show you what it looks like, but the shooting range isn't the best way to gauge it. Alright, we're gonna put this on the invulnerable ones. Okay. I'll just put that on here. Okay. So you start off, right? You know, you either shot your grenade launcher or crossbow. Razorback starting to go up. You can shoot it, it's going to say immune. But you'll see that blue buff at the top. Alright, that's 5 shots. You switch, shoot again. And you switch to your pistol, boom. That's 2. Now it says 14 million, but it'll be a lot different when you're doing Razorback, because this thing has armor. There's a lot of factors that come into play, but that's, and you just do it quicker. So like if you're going full speed, you're gonna go like this. It's gonna be like that quick, if not quicker. That's 2 times. Now, if you're really good and you can pull off 3, do it. And just hit it even harder. Now, another thing too that happens is, you know, after you get your shot off, maybe you didn't crit. You can switch your primary. And just hit shit with them. Now the numbers don't really reflect how it really looks when you do it, but that's kind of the idea of it. Alright, and let's take a look. What else we got here?
Inventory.
Alright, so I hope that that kind of helps. I might have to try and get some videos and show you guys a little bit more. Okay. Now here is a spotter build. Alright. And it's from the gunner class. And the reason I do it is I think about this, right? The spotter comes from the scanner pulse. With the gunner class, you get those mods right there. 15% radius, 15% effect duration. Cooldown on it is pretty low, even though I know we're still in the White House. I'm using, you know, Fenris because I'm going to be using ARs. You know, my FAMAS, Police M4. Now, you want to switch things up. You could run this with the Eagle Bear. No problem. I would run, this is sort of like a, maybe like semi-support build too. Coyote's Mask, Spotter, you're doing amplified damage. That even helps skills, right? You're showing your teammates where all the enemies are. And it's pretty similar to your, you know, you keep these 2 pieces. You know, use the vigilance on the gift thing here, Providence. Now if you don't want to run this, just trade that out for here. You got your 3-piece Providence, you got 1 Fenris, make your ARs hit harder. And you're constantly just popping the pulse, lighting things up. Now I know a lot of people talk about like spotter pulse builds. You know, what they like to do is they like to run tactician. Right, the reason being is just this thing right here. This link the laser pointer. It goes under long barrels, long rails. It's the only reason. Right, and what that does
Inventory.
is like on the M4 here, right? I think it'll work on the M4. Right here. Some assault rifles it will not work. It has to say, yeah, the long underbarrel. If it says like short underbarrel, it won't work on that one. So let me see if it, I don't know if it'll work on this. Yeah, see, this one's got a short underbarrel, so it will not work on a FAMAS. But it'll work on the M4, I think the MK16s or whatever, you know. And I mean, you can definitely get away with it using it, but the only thing it does, let's see if I got the right weapon on. This is, watch, when you aim on it, it lights it up, right? Just the one target. Whereas if you, and you could use a different skill, but if you do this, you pretty much can see everything, and it helps your team out too. Now, it does have its benefits depending on certain fights and stuff, you know, for marking targets. But in dark hours, especially with newer people, if you can, you know, highlight more enemies, it's going to help everybody out. But I'm going to go a little bit more into it in just a second here. I'm going to switch back to the gunner. Yeah, so the reason I like the gunner with this setup, most of the ads you're fighting are kind of close to mid-range, not too many that are far. And if you're killing things, you get armor, faster reloads, pretty decent armor kit. You know, I said that's really mostly for the mods. Help your teammates regenerate ammo. You know, rate of fire goes up, killing shit. You get weapon handling, which can help you, deal out the pain faster. Minigun. Minigun's for like if you get caught, just pull it out and give you some extra armor. And it could do some really good damage too. Something else you could pair it with too. There's a named piece called the Night Watcher. I got a couple of them here to show you. Alright, so I got one that's got weapon damage. I had skill haste already on it, which isn't a bad thing because it just means you're going to get your pulse back even quicker. Right now, if you had an ideal one, maybe crit hit chance, crit hit damage instead of skill haste. Right, like this one. You want to go for a little more survivability, keep the armor, and then instead of repair skills, we could put crit hit chance, crit hit damage. But you can't change that 100% scanner pulse haste.
Agent requesting backup.
But yeah, this will definitely do well in any of the raids, and it gives a lot of unique support utility to your team. And most of the time in dark hours, you're going to be in cover somewhere. Few places you'll be, moving around a lot. So your passive, getting that weapon handling, will be up like almost constantly. Right? And then I rock the orbit with this one because this can actually help you just do even more damage with that perfect finisher. And your guns really are your preference. And like I said, you could even rock it with the Eagle Bear. And this way you won't have to worry so much about that tenacity buff trying to kill you. Actually be able to lay down, at least 2 adds, depending on where they are, killing reds and stuff, purples, This is a pretty solid build. You just, I'll show you some of the stats on it. Right, so you're trying to go, as close to 60 as you can with this. And then as much crit hit as you can. It's going to be a little bit lower because you're switching some pieces around. Like I said, I was using the Coyote's mask. It can make up a difference with that. And then you can drop your crit chance lower, just model crit damage. Yeah, this is a fun build to kind of mess around with. I'd keep the riot foam grenades just because you can, lock them out. And it's just, once you learn where the adds come from, like in the first boss in Boomer, they come from doors, certain doors, and you get a kind of a precursor, like when you see the doors open up or close or whatever, something's coming. And then, yeah, you can mess around with different talents if you want. It's just, like I said, it's your preference, what you like. Or if you're a math person, you try and figure out, is Optimus better or is Measured better? Okay, let me show you. Now this was something I just threw together. I've not had a chance to test it in a raid before, but it's a combination of just like how many buffs can you give your team and still do some damage. So it's Overwatch, right? And pretty much throughout most of the raids you're going to be in cover. And being a sharpshooter, you want to be in cover. You actually want to be kind of far away from your things to give your teammates extra headshot damage. And opportunistic. Typically a healer will run opportunistic, but sometimes they don't. It just kind of depends. Sometimes there isn't even a healer for some parts in a raid. So any little bit of damage you could fork out could help people. So I kind of went, headshot on this. So headshot from Providence, 2-piece, for your marksman rifle, headshot. Kept the foxes, put more headshot, crit damage, and then run coyotes, because depending on where you are, you can give them 25 crit hit chance if you're far away, or the middle one, which is more likely, 10 and 10. And if things get up in your face, handy dandy shotgun. I still rock that card on this one. And I'm using the the spotter drone again. You could use whatever. You could use the fixer one if you'd like, or you don't even have to use them at all. I could use something else, turret, decoy, whatever. Just using Nemesis, but really you can use whatever marksman rifle you want. An SVD just to fire faster and keep the marks up. With this, it still hits pretty hard. Can take down enemies pretty easy. Flashbang for just sort of a little bit of crowd control, catching ads when they're coming out. But I think this would work pretty well. Like I said, this is just something I threw together. Getting bored with builds and things. Just trying to give people different ideas. Now here is a build that I got from a guy named Grave. I've seen him run it before and then finally asked him about it, and he kind of gave me some ideas. So this is like my own take on it, but the idea is the same. It focuses on the memento as being a core piece. And the memento gives you a lot of stuff, right? Biggest thing is the armor regeneration. But you gotta make sure you're the one that's killing things. So if you take a look at some of the pieces we got here, right? Gear sets are 2 pieces of gold, so more armor regen. 1 bellstone, more armor regen. Now we're looking for damage. We got crit hit damage. We're trying to max out our crit chance too. Is that the SMGs? All red, right? I'm using this. It has pretty good weapon damage, fires at a good rate within sync, because I'm going to be using the firewall shield, the Crusader Striker shield. Now, the way this works, right? Take a look here. Maxed out crit chance. I get as much crit damage as I can, pull from this build. A little bit of headshot damage. Right. And then I'm using the Scorpio. There's different secondaries you can use for it. Just, kind of depends. I'm still keeping the card. So this can be a little confusing sometimes, right? Now if you read this thing, so it's going to boost the damage of you and allies. So if anybody stands behind you, they'll get a buff in the little cone or whatever. Now I had this thing modded out just to increase the damage bonus. The 1% is that first slot here. I mean, you could do shield health. There's the 8%. I guess I got 2 of these. And then I use the firewall because it's got really good shield mods, active regeneration. You could use shield health as you want. But the health of the shield's kind of low anyway, and you're mainly using it just to get that damage buff. And then this last one, I'm looking for 5% or higher. I'm gonna guess by the way this is rolling that I've never seen a 6% for this. It's kind of like that 13% protection from elites. It's the unicorn of the game. And still use the Reviver Hive. So the idea is you keep your shield out, using your main weapon. It does pretty good damage. As you're shooting things, your obliterate stacks are going to go up and deal even more damage, right? And you can take a look at some of the ways I rolled this. Kind of boils down to like 4 reds right from here, and because this gives you a bunch, you're already getting 3 blues, and you just got an extra yellow just because it's on the bag. But every time you're killing shit, you run around, pick up those trophies. It goes up to 30. So you're constantly building stacks. This is, I guess, what's referred to as like a door jammer build. You're basically in front of a spawn point where ads continually come out. You kill them, pick up the trophy. You're constantly getting stronger. It's good for longer fights. And then, like when you initially pick it up, it gives you a pretty solid buff for a little while. But the long run buff is what's important too. Like you could take big chunks of damage if you just sit cover for a little bit, you'll regenerate fairly quickly. So it's like you're healing while you're doing damage, kind of. That's the idea of this build. And like this could work. This works good on Boomer, right? Because where do the ads come from? Doors. I would say it's really good for what is it, 44, 43. It's kind of like that back corner where there's a lot of ads that come out of there. Burger. Burger gets a few ads, not as much. Donut and 40 tend to get a decent amount of ads too, so it could work well there. So either one of those corners. And then like an Iron Horse, this amazing second boss. You know, pick one of the doors on A side, C side. Last boss, Marzova, you know, either left side or right side. And being right in front of the door, green lasers don't tend to target you being that close. They tend to target people that are like out in the middle or farther away. And those ads will never make it out the door with this kind of build. Especially with this, you know, I like the, you know, if you fire off a couple rounds, haven't killed them, you could switch to this, and then, you know, your status effects kind of kicks in with this and helps it a little bit better. But this is a build I've, you know, kind of fallen in love with, and just keep in mind whenever you're building things, these pieces don't have to be in the exact same spots, you know, except for things like, hey, the memento, because it is an exotic backpack, you can't put it anywhere else. But the rest of this stuff, it's interchangeable. You just, the talents are what you want. So, you know, if you don't have a really good Sokolov chest piece, but maybe it's a Grupo with Obliterate, you can switch them. You just want the same kind of stats, just put them in a different spot. And that goes for like any build, really. But this is a pretty solid one for both raids, you know, Dark Hours especially. You know, and you're doing your overwatches on Boomer and stuff too, it's really good because that fight depends on the group, but if you're running with a newer group, it can be a longer fight. So this is a really solid build for that, to build your stacks up and to keep yourself alive. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I've been trying to clean up some of the builds I've been learning about and just want to share it. Okay, let's see what we got next. Okay. Now, this is a Negotiator Dilemma build. This piece can do some pretty crazy things. The main reason people run Negotiators is because of the marks that it has, its built-in mechanic, that it can do damage to otherwise immune bosses. So like on Boomer, there's ways to mark him, mark the ads, kill the ads, deal damage to Boomer. Some really like top tier speedrunners and shit, they can use this on like the first boss in Iron Horse and basically find ways to one-shot them. It works on the second boss as well. This, you know, with the right setup and the right group, you definitely can't do it on your own. You need a little bit of help for those other things, but on Boomer, the way it works and what I would say is you're going to stack, you know, it's weapon damage, crit hit damage, mod, crit hit damage. Right, I'm using Perfect Glass Cannon. Right, Foxes. I'm using Foxes here, and I'll tell you why in a second here, because it's going to work really well with a gun that not a lot of people tend to use or don't like. But this gun can hit extremely hard, right? And it's about the crits. Guaranteed crits on this gun. Learning how to use it, right? You know, when you first come out, it'll mark an enemy. You know, after you reload, marks an enemy. And then when you hit that mark, everything you hit, man, guaranteed crits. And then as a backup, I'm running M1A, but this is your primary, your Diamondback here. So I'll show you a little bit about how this works, and it's kind of hard to show in the shooting range. But here's the idea, right? I'm gonna get out a named boss. like 5 meters. Okay. Right, you see how that little thing, how it's marked something already? It's marked that guy. Now it's got this. And there's that red target. So anything you shoot, it's doing damage to him. If I could hit another marked target. Yeah, it's kind of hard. Yeah, it's a little hard to do it in here, but you can see this thing's hitting for almost 5 million. Right? So the idea is like you would mark Boomer, right? You get the red. Yeah, it's kind of hard to do it here, I'm sorry. Let's see if it works better on Invulnerable. Okay, there he's marked. Yeah, we're just shooting him. He's not doing much. That one got marked. Yeah, these things are just dying too quick. But it's basically like you get the mark on them, and then whatever ads are running around, you shoot them. And you'll get the mark on them too. It's the same little red thing. And then after you've hit the marked target, the ads, it should transfer the damage to Boomer, even though he's immune. That's what helps kill him faster. And then you just constantly, you're trying to keep your mark on Boomer. There is a way, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but like when he immediately comes out, you can mark him. It's usually when you get a crit or something. Yeah, sometimes it gets a little glitchy with it. But you mark him when he comes out, and you just go right back to killing ads. You want to be in one of the corners because that's where the most ads come out. You kill those ads, transfers damage to him. When he goes down, you shoot him in the head, get a new mark on him, go back to killing ads. That's the basis of it.
Inventory.
And like I said, I'm using sharpshooter, headshot damage, spotter drone, reviver hive. And then like I said, you just stack as much crit hit damage as you can on it. And then as you're killing stuff, your crit hit damage is going to continue to go up. And use glass cannon, just the more damage the better. The quicker you kill them. Model crit hit damage. It is a little tricky getting used to using this, but when you get it down, it can actually be quite a lot of fun. I just wish this gun had more bullets in it, or the reload speed was a little bit quicker. But this is the setup I've come to kind of learn that a lot of people use, and to learn why they used it, because of the built-in mechanics of the Diamondback here. Like it guarantees critical hits, right? And its critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds. You only can have 3 marks. So if you get good at spreading your marks out, you can do some big time damage with this. Now this kind of build, it could be run in different spots, but it really does excel on like Boomer, just helping get him done quicker. If you wanted to try it on Buddy and Lucy, it might be a little tricky because you might be hitting one harder than the other. It just really kind of depends. And there's no other ads to get marks on. And for the weasel fight, they usually die pretty quick. You could try it on weasel too. There's a lot of ads that run around, marking the boss, killing the ads. Or you mark all the ads and shoot the boss. Either way, it'll help clear things. And then this will kind of show you where things are. You just follow your mark. You listen for that weird little... So like you could shoot one bullet and reload. And it puts a little mark on. You follow that yellow orangish line to wherever the target is. Right, but see them, but it can move around. But the gun, look, when it crits, look at that, almost 5 million. And then when you get your stacks up, you'll be hitting well over 5 million.
Inventory.
So some people use different variations of it, but I've come to learn this is probably the easiest way to use this. You can try putting all crit hit chance on it. You could use an SMG to get to like closer to 60%. You won't be doing as much damage, but you'll definitely keep your marks up all the time, and it won't be so kind of quirky using the Diamondback. But you know, if you pull it off, either way, you know, you're gonna help your team kill quicker, and the faster Boomer goes down, the better. All right, yeah, because I could show you, like, look, this thing's only got like 25% crit hit chance, but these are what make you do some damage. Built in with that automatic crit from here, it's kind of like a win-win, you know. And then the backpack here, right? It's gonna make all the damage you do go, you know, directly from it. Now, I've been watching some videos and trying to do some studying on it. There is this thing that if you mark, now say you mark Boomer, right? And then you're going to kill the ads. If any of the ads have weak points, and you end up killing them through a weak point, that'll actually transfer all the true damage. But if you don't, I'm pretty sure there's a cap on how much damage can actually get transferred. It's like, I don't know the exact numbers, but for example, an ad has, you know, 5 million health. Tag it, you know, for 7, but it's not through a weak point, it's still only going to transfer the 5 million. But somehow, I guess if you hit it through a weak point, it would transfer that 7 million to Boomer. And that's what some of the, you know, top tier guys are saying. There's a lot of videos out there on YouTube are saying. So something to try out for yourself, and you know, see what you come up with. Mess around with it.
Inventory.
And then these are some other builds. Let me see what I got here. Alright, these are some two different tank builds. I hate that you can't switch builds in the
Inventory.
shooting range. Okay. This one isn't, I mean, it could work in dark hours. It's just it's a tank build. This is more kind of geared towards Iron Horse, hazard protection. It's True Patriot. True Patriot in and of itself is a pretty decent gear set, you know. Ammo capacity, magazine capacity, but the red, white, and blue is where it's at. Getting that full flag on, you know, they take amplified damage, they do less damage, you can regenerate armor by shooting it. You know, it's a really cool thing, and then if you blow something up, it does damage to anything around it. It's a pretty cool set to run around with. A lot of different ways to run it too. You know, you can run it more tank like I did, or you get a farm. You know, you're looking for the bottom attribute to be like crit hit chance, crit hit damage, any kind of red one really, and then change the armor to weapon damage. And you can make it a DPS kind of build, right? And you could even do it same thing with like a Hollow Man. That would go really well with like an AR build, and then maybe like a Fenner's chest piece or something. But this could, I mean, if somebody wanted to kite Boomer, you don't need a tank build to do it, but this could definitely help others do damage, keep you alive. You don't have to, you know, depending on how you want to mod it, you can do protection from elites. You know, sometimes you get shocked from those little sniper drones and stuff. You could put shock resistance. You know, a lot of different ways to run this, but like I said, this build is kind of more geared towards Iron Horse, either the second boss or even the third boss, because you do need some hazard protection from a tank in certain spots there. And I rock like a C-Turret with preservation, just to, you know, you're not really going to do a whole lot of damage as a tank in this setup, but if you're able to kill anything, just to help keep you alive even more, you know. And then the card is going to help. You know, you can use Reviver, Decoy, Defender drone, Assault drone, a lot of different things you can throw with it. But shield it's a pretty good thing to use with this. But it could be something else, really, it doesn't matter. And the last tank build is Foundry that I have. Now I used the Demolitionist on that one for like extra burn resistance to get to like 100, I think. Now this one, Foundry, and I should mention too, like this one could work well like on Buddy or on Weasel Fight if you guys use the 7-in-1 strategy. Some people like doing that, some people don't like doing that, but either way you're gonna need a tank, and this could be one way to run it, this could be another way to run it. This one is, Foundry. I focus more on shield health on this one. Shield health, armor regen, the Vanguard for everybody on the team. And I used the backpack on this just because of the repair to happen quicker. And then
Backup request.
I used the forge, put armor on it, armor regen. Now you could change things up. You could drop the forge for another piece of Foundry, and then switch the backpack. Let me see if I got any in here that could show you. Yeah, you could use a Matador if you want some more damage. I think I got some other on there. You could use. Let me show you. I mean, one 511 is probably not the best ideal one, but you would want something similar to this. You could do this, and that way you can put opportunistic on something. You could change the gear brand set to, anything really. It could be another. Well, I probably wouldn't do 2 Gila. You could do Bellstone. Bellstone would be good. Like that, and I could change that weapon handling to armor regen. Yeah, you could mess around with clutch. It's a little weird, but you can mess around with it. Maybe bloodsucker, but you're not really going to be able to kill a lot of things. Could do Badger Tough if you're going to use a Scorpio. Anything with galvanize on too could be a thing if you use a Scorpio too. Give everybody armor. Let me see what else there. But yeah, it's kind of a way to go, But yeah, this one focuses mainly on the shield, on the big shield, right? So the way I got this set up though is for like Morozova, Last Boss, Iron Horse. But if you wanted to tank any other part, I mean, you can use tanks on Buddy and Lucy. You definitely use tanks on the Weasel Fight. You could just change these around. You keep the shield, but you could use Defender Drone. It lasts a short amount of time, but it comes back pretty quick too. Use a decoy, assault turret, assault drone. Those are kind of like the better ones to use. But I mean, this is a pretty straightforward, simple build to get. It's just armor regen, armor regen, protection from elites, and Vanguard. It doesn't have to be perfect Vanguard, but this is a solid piece because extra armor, incoming repairs. It doesn't hurt. It's just more shield health is what I was going for. Plus it's built into the 3-piece. So yeah, it's armor regen. Right? And then I would change these up. Like I said, this was set up for Morozova, Last Boss. So you could switch to the Scorpio. You could even rock a Sweet Dreams, if you're dealing with a lot of purples and reds. I mean, there's a lot of things you could use. Test subject, and sync out with your shield. Use another mop, use a mop or something. You could use the Scorpio, switch to the mop just to put Vindictive on. For me, that's the buff I had on it. But I like using this. It's got perfect preservation. Emmeline's Guard. It's the name P90. Only get 2 mods, but it's still a pretty decent little submachine gun. Or, you know, if you want to go for a little more damage, Lady Death, if you're able to kill things, it makes you run around faster. And you do amplified damage. A lot of different ways to do things, you know. It just depends on what you have, what you want to try. Yeah, I mean, this gun can come with any talent, or if you get, you know, get it maxed out, you can put whatever talent you want on it. Pumped up, whatever. Pummel even, who knows. So, those are some of the other builds I wanted to kind of share, wanted to kind of go over. Just get it out there. If people like them, use them. If not, you know, make changes. And I hope that helps. And what I will say is there's not a lot of like skill builds really in Dark Hours. But
Inventory.
Iron Horse, there's a couple places that they actually excel. I've used this build for a lot of different places, but I originally put it together to do upstairs on the power boxes, second boss, Iron Horse. Just to kill the purple, and then to DPS the Chunga down. And the drones come in handy. But this same kind of setup, or something a little different with different, you know, talents, could work really well in the third boss. Because some teams will put 3 skill builds in between the different colors, like so red, yellow, yellow, blue, and maybe big door. And then the drones, they just go to work, and you're shooting whatever you can get your hands on. You know, not really going to use any sweet dreams. You could use anything else. Maybe a rifle for when you have to damage the boss. You could use the harmony if you really want something, anything. Or just, you know, M1A, whatever. Sidearm, doesn't really matter that much what you want to use, just like this one, because I have it. But the way this build works is you know, it's all yellow, right? Skill damage, skill haste. I use skill duration on this because you want these to last as long as they can. You know, I even tried out a rigger build. You know, you could still keep this here and use maybe 4-piece rigger here, depends, and then maybe a wyvern piece just for extra skill damage. And rigger's interesting because you just break a skill, get it right back. You know, break a skill, get it right back, and it makes it do a little bit of extra damage. But I like this because it's like you're shooting stuff, more damage. Because you shot something with your skill, you get more weapon damage. Because you're shooting things, weapon damage, skill damage. So it's like they're all working together, right? This is just more duration. This 3-piece on to use everything you need for this build. And the wyvern's just more skill damage. And this thing is just constantly buffing either your turret or your drone. Then your turret and your drone. It just kind of keeps going back and forth. And the test subject, I like it as an assault rifle. You know, there's a harmony that's out there. It's got perfect in sync on it. It's just your preference, really. And then your other weapon, you can pick from whatever you like. You know, a lot of weapons in this game. I just wouldn't really recommend LMGs. But they could work on the third boss there in Iron Horse. In Dark Hours, you know, skill builds could work really well, maybe doing an Overwatch. Haven't had a chance to mess around with it yet. But it just depends on, you know, what the group is, what you're comfortable with, and if they're okay with you using it. Everybody's all like, make sure you have an all red build, and if you don't have certain stats, we won't take you. Yeah, so just something to be aware of, you know. If you know the team, if they're okay with it. Some people are, some people aren't. Different groups, different things, you know. But these are just some of the things I wanted to share with you guys. Some of the other stuff you're seeing are just different things for Iron Horse. But yeah, I hope that helps. Anyway, take care, guys.